gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is Mr. Yusuf Hashim, and we're going to find out a lot of cool things about this man. Now, I've got people asking me, who is this guy? Who is this cool? One guy just said, famous guest. Hey, you're a famous man, Yusuf. We got people already commenting on our post. So thank you guys for streaming in. Appreciate it. Now, it's Sunday evening right here in Kuala Lumpur. I'm in PJ, and I'm not sure where Yusuf is. Some part of KL, I think. How are you doing, sir? All good?
I
Can you
think
hear
that's
me, Yusuf?
yeah, now it's okay. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm okay, John. I'm okay. I think there's a lot of people on the internet these days, and it's been rather slow these days.
That
Because
is
of
true. I think
mm,
pretty much all of Malaysia is
mm.
now throttling the highest download speeds ever. So we'll make do. We'll make it happen. So let's just get into it because I'm sure it's going to be a fun evening. I mean, when I had the chance to hear you live in 2018 at the EPF Social Wellbeing Conference, I was like, who in the world is this gentleman? I mean, I was a show producer, but I was so glad that I sat in on your session because hearing you talk in that, I think it was 45 minutes. After that, I asked the organizers, I asked all the folks from EPF, I'm like, who is this man? Where did y'all find him? I'm like, where did y'all unearth this guy? And and ironically, that was I think in November. And fast forward 2 months after that, I actually just did a lot of what I heard you preach that evening. And today I want to just get into that and just pepper you with some questions. And I think with what you will have to just share with us, I think from your wealth of experience, my sincere hope is that not just the viewers who are with us tonight, but when I do share this later, I think there will be a lot of take home for a lot of people who follow my show. So let's start off with tell us a little bit more about yourself, Yusuf.
Okay, John. Thank you. I'm just an ordinary 75-year-old grandfather with 15 grandkids. I'm unemployed, unemployable, and I'm loving it. I used to work for a small company called Shell.
Small, I like that.
Yeah,
Small, it
I,
seems.
I was posted in the UK and in Rotterdam, and I came back to Malaysia, I think, sometime in '89 or '90. And then
Okay.
they made me managing director of Shell Chemicals in Malaysia. And then after that, I became their retail market director. And in 1999, when the world economic crisis fell upon us, there came an opportunity to retire early. At that time, I was only 53 years,
Oh, wow.
53 years young. But those days, the retirement age was 55, so retiring at 53 really was not just 2 years earlier than usual. It's only these days that it's 65. But I retired at 53 because there were a number of push factors and a number of pull factors as well. I mean, the push factors was, my daughter, my youngest daughter, is just graduated from Loughborough with an engineering degree.
Okay.
Mortgage was all paid, so no more debts. And I had a few investments that was giving me quite a reasonable rate of income.
Okay.
Best of all, 1999 was a tax-free year. So whatever
Oh,
money you earned during that year was tax-free, And those
oh,
days, you guys are lucky today. You're paying maximum tax rate about 35 or 30 or something. Those days, maximum was 47, So every dollar I got in 1999 was worth one whole dollar.
wow.
So that was the thing that really pushed me. And the company was kind enough to accept my application. So
Okay.
here I am. And then also the pull factors was that I've been driving all over the place with my friends. I've been
Okay.
taking a flight to China, into Sulawesi, to Vietnam, and all that. And then I said to myself, I really want to see the world by driving, by driving a 4x4.
Okay.
So this was one of the pull factors, and I wanted to climb mountains. I wanted to see Antarctica and the Arctic, and I wanted to shoot pictures, and I wanted to write as well. So here was an opportunity. So at 53, I decided to throw in the towel and left. And I can tell you, this last 20 years of my life, I've been retired now 20 years,
Yeah.
have been the best part of my life.
Wow.
So now what I'm going to do is I want to try and persuade all those 50-year-olds not to work till you're 65, but to retire
Okay.
early. I have a message for them, and I have a message for people of your generation also. The
Awesome.
30s,
Awesome.
40s, and the 50s. So maybe we can share a few of these lessons that I've learned along the way.
I sure hope so. I mean, I've
Mm.
prepared some questions, and I looked at it long and hard, and I wanted to see how do we take advantage of this opportunity. And you've given a quick summary, and I think as we go into this, you're going to have a chance to really download just some of that wealth of experience that you have. So, to date, you've visited more than 150 countries over this 20-year span. I stand corrected. Um,
Yes,
but
about 130, thus far 132 or 35, something like that,
okay,
135. Yeah.
okay. So, have there been any life-defining moments that stick with you till today?
I don't know. I think the most important thing I discovered from traveling is that I've discovered everybody else in the world is equal. Everybody else is like you and me. Everybody else, wants the same things that you and I want. They
Mm-hmm.
want a good life. They want a bit of money to spend. They want a secure home.
Mm-hmm.
They want to have love. They want to be loved. You
Yep.
know, and they want a safe place to call home. That being the case, I sometimes wonder why in a country like Malaysia, for example, that many people are so bigoted and they think that they're special and so on. Because I think in God's eyes, we are all the same, even though your skin is different, you worship different gods. I've seen all kinds of people, people with holes in their ears, holes in their lips, with clothes on, no clothes on. They all want exactly the same thing as you and I. So I think if you travel, this seeing all kinds of people all over the world, different color, different skin, different language, no clothes, with clothes,
Yep.
good homes, bad homes, they all want the same thing, they're exactly that you and I. The blood that flows in their veins, actually can save your life if you're sick,
Yep.
So I think one of the things I've learned most is that the greatest takeaway from travel is that when you travel, you will see apart from how beautiful this planet is,
Yep.
see that everybody else is the same as you. So let's get rid of all this bigotry and
Yes.
inequality and special positions and all that. All human
Understood.
beings are the same everywhere. You
Of
know.
course, of course. I mean, and coming from you, I think if you allow me to, a 75-year-old grandfather of 15 grandchildren, I'll take your word on that. Now, across your travels, what has truly influenced you the most, and why? I mean, issues that you've come across. I mean, I'm sure you've seen so much. I mean, 132 countries and counting. I'm sure there's been just so many eye-opening instances that have happened, but maybe one or two that has really just made a difference, made an impact in your life.
I, um, I think my life has been. I've been fortunate because I went to school in the Royal Military College, and the motto of the college was to strive or to serve, to lead. They were
Hmm.
preparing leaders for the army, the military forces, and for civilian life. And
Yep.
then one of the things they taught over there was to value honor, integrity, morality, and honesty. And
Yes.
I think that is the bedrock of people, good people around the world, that we need to notice.
Yep.
If you don't have these four qualities, then it's you'll see all kinds of regimes, becoming bad countries.
Yep.
And, so when we were in the military college, we ate together, we slept together, we suffered together, we even bathed together naked. So that kind of thing. There were Malays and there were Chinese and there were Indians, but we saw no color.
Yes.
So I was brought up along this kind of environment, so I see no color in anybody. So when
Sure.
I travel and I see different people, and I naturally, take it as if it's normal that they are different,
Yep.
but they're the same. So I I see no differentiation in people. So uh, I only saw this differentiation after I left the military college. I started working right in the middle of May 13,
Yep.
and
Oh, wow.
yeah, before that I was in university, and then transitioning from the military college where
Yep.
everybody is equal into the university where there were so many extremists, religious extremists, racial extremists, what really shocked me. And it pains me that today, our nation is so badly divided. So, and I think one of the things that arose out of the May 13 incidents was that we were trying to bring races to be equal,
Yep.
by things like affirmative action and all that. And I think up to date, I think this thing has done a bit more harm than good. You see, so I
Mm.
think it's time that we go back to meritocracy, and really bring this country out of the kind of mess that we're in now.
I like how you went down that road, but coming back to, because I mean, I've heard you talk about this before, and I think when you have traveled, there has been so many things that opened your eyes, and I mean, you've covered how just growing up in RMC and as a Malaysian and having witnessed so much in the last I guess 50 years. But is there something that in all your travels that really just just made a huge difference, that opened your eyes and made you appreciate everything that you have today and the way you preach it? Was there a defining moment anywhere?
Well, the thing I noticed most when you travel, apart from the beauty of this earth, I mean, the Africa, Antarctica, the Arctic, the Patagonia, the Andes, Himalayas, the deserts, they're all very beautiful. But what I noticed most was the destructive effects of man.
Mm,
In the Arctic, for example, there are only 25,000 polar bears left. Global
oh,
warming, as a result of our actions on Earth, have melted the ice floes upon which polar bears feed. Because they hunt the seals on the ice. This has melted, so there's less and less polar bears, and there are only 25,000 left. And yet, in countries like the United States and in Canada,
yes.
they're still shooting polar bears. As much as 750 polar bears every year. At
Oh,
this
wow.
rate of depletion, I tell you, polar bears will be extinct on this planet. And countries like Russia, for example, even Russia has stopped the hunting of polar bear
Yeah.
since 1957.
Okay.
So it's only the United States and Canada who are still shooting polar bears. And then that's polar bears. But if you go down south to Antarctica, I mean, you go to graveyards of whales, you see mountains of whale bones.
Yes.
They've been killing, in Antarctica alone, more than 500,000 whales a year, until to the extent that, they had to have a moratorium on this thing, and in order to let the species regenerate.
Yeah.
Sadly, the countries like Japan, maybe Finland as well, and one or two other countries are still hunting whales.
Okay.
This is the effect that I saw. I mean, the sad thing. And then when they finished whales in Antarctica, you know what they did? They started shooting penguins.
Oh boy.
But luckily now, the last visit, well, I've been about 6 or 7 times to Antarctica. The penguins, the king penguins, for example, have started to regenerate themselves.
Okay.
They are colonies of a few hundred thousands now in Antarctica. So the world has started to regenerate again. Whales have started coming back in Antarctica, and just like our Sungai Kelang, 2 weeks of shutdown, and
Yes.
the water is blue again. So if you say what has been the thing that struck me most from traveling is to notice the the effects of man on the environment. I just saw in the papers, for example, even in our own Malaysia, so many
Yes.
more elephants are being killed.
Oh,
Poisoned, all these
yes.
plantation people.
Yes.
And they're
Yes.
clearing more and more, a forest to plant more oil palm, which I think shouldn't be the case. There are so many
Yes.
other higher added value crops that we can plant.
Of
Why
course. Of
stick to
course.
oil palm? So that's about it. But how religion has more or less been uppermost in the minds of many people around the world.
Yes.
In countries that I visit, I see temples, churches, mosques, synagogues, gold plated, rising up from the slums of ordinary people. So the house of God is so much better than ordinary people, and yet these houses of God,
Yeah.
of gods,
Yeah.
are empty all the time, most of
Mm,
the time.
mm.
So religion has been one of the things that has that I noticed. I mean, if you go to Europe, for example, the old churches, it's fantastic and beautiful. You go to Tibet, for example, the Potala Palace got 900 rooms, and the rumor is that there are about 900 tons of gold in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you see the the Amritsar temple is gold,
Yes.
and
Yes.
rises out of the slum of the poor people of India. And the
Yeah.
mosques of the world too are fantastic. But as I said, these are the things I noticed. The amount of effort and money people put into religious edifices
Yes.
at the expense of ordinary people. But I suppose that's what it is. So you asked me what I saw. This is what I noticed.
Understand. Have you
And I
written a book yet on your travels?
So I also see countries, that have been sort of their names have been blackened by propaganda. I
Okay.
mean, when I was in Libya, everybody loves Gaddafi. Did you know that he was building an underground river from the south of the Sahara to the Mediterranean coast, about 2,000 kilometers long, to bring water from the south to the arid parts in the north
Oh,
when he was
wow.
killed. And the reason why he was killed was because he was trying to change the trading of oil from
Right.
US dollar to the Arab gold dinar. So of
Right.
course the West and the Americans didn't like it and arranged for him to be changed.
Of
So these
course.
are the things. I mean, you see things like, for example, if you go to Cambodia, you see the killing fields, the mountains of skeletons and skulls of people who've been killed in genocide.
Yeah.
And if you go to Korea, for example, North Korea, everybody in North Korea is supposed to love Kim Jong Un and
Yeah.
beautiful buildings, but they're empty.
Right.
And then you go to places like like Iran, for example. Iranians are the most friendly people in the world, and yet they're being condemned and demeaned by by the West for all their own reasons. And something like this COVID thing
Yes.
has really equalized all of us. I mean,
True. Everyone's on the same level playing field right
yeah,
now.
yeah. So I think we need some of this sort of thing to really make us realize that get back to basics.
Understand. So coming back to, I mean, I've got so many questions here, and I want to hear all your answers as long as time permits. Now, you've driven from KL to London twice, from Istanbul to KL a few times, and even from PJ to Chennai in India. So, what's next for you? Like, what is the one thing that you still want to do, if any?
Well, I've driven, as you say, almost 135 countries, and almost all continents. And I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been focusing my attention to Antarctica and to the Arctic.
Okay.
Yeah, somehow that part of the world fascinates me. I've been to Antarctica 6 times, and I still want to go. And I've been to the Arctic, to Greenland. I've sailed there to the Siberian Arctic, to Svalbard, to Iceland, to you name it. I've been, and I still want to go. And I think they say that if you drink iceberg melt, you are condemned to return to the poles again and
Oh,
again and again.
wow. Okay. And I know you've
So,
done that because
so
I've seen the
yeah.
photos.
So actually, it's the Arctic and Antarctica for me. And this year I was supposed to go to Wrangel Island in July.
Okay.
Because of this coronavirus thingy, then I have had to cancel it, maybe postpone it to next year, July,
Okay.
and see whether or not the world is still safe to travel by that time. I don't know, but the polar regions are the ones that I love now. For the last 2 years or so, 3 years, I've been going back and forth, never getting tired of it, you know.
Correct. Yeah, because I think that was when I heard you speak in 2018, uh, you were still high on that. Like, you were just
I still
high
am.
on, yeah. And I remember I wrote down a list of 5 places you must go. And allow me to pull this up because it's still here. I wrote it down while listening to you, and I have the notes here of 5 places to go. And this is from you: Patagonia, Bolivia, Argentina, Everest Base Camp, and the Drake Passage.
Mm,
This is what you said in late 2018 uh,
um,
when you presented at EPF. But I
yeah,
yeah,
to my mind, the five places in the world that everybody must go before they die, like not countries like that, but I think regions.
regions,
Like,
regions,
you
regions.
should go to the northwest frontier of Pakistan. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. You know, and you should go to the Himalayas. I mean,
Isn't that
sure.
the Pasu cones? The Pasu
Say
cones,
again?
right? The Pasu cones, right?
Yes, the Pasukones, K2, Rakaposhi, Nanga Parbat, 120 of the world's highest peaks, all those above 8,000,
Okay.
are in the northwest frontier of Pakistan. And any mountain below 7,000 meters doesn't have a name. There's too many of
Oh,
them. Yeah.
oh
So,
wow.
so if you drive through the Karakoram Highway, which joins Pakistan to China, you see the confluence or convergence of the Himalayas, the Hindu Kush, and the Karakoram. I mean, they're beautiful. So you must go there. You must go there.
And
So
that's what my
secondly,
friend Andrew did. Remember, I introduced you
yeah,
to
and
Andrew.
yeah, Andrew has just come back. I think that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. So the second thing is actually the Himalayas. I mean, you go trekking to Himalayas and go to Everest Base Camp. Go
Yeah.
to the Annapurna Base Camp. It's also beautiful, but I think over there's too many tourists.
Okay.
So it's getting a bit crowded and a bit dirty. The tracks are full of donkey shit and
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
so it's not so nice. But then the scenery is still good and the air is still clean. So Himalayas, the northwest frontier of Pakistan, Patagonia is the third one. Patagonia is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And you go there and you see the Andes, you see the glaciers, you see the deserts, you see the pampas, and you see the wildlife there.
Yeah.
So, and in Patagonia, just north of Patagonia, is places like the Sala de Uyuni in Bolivia. It's a
Okay.
desert. When it rains, there are 3 inches of water as far as I can see, and it acts like a mirror reflecting the sky.
Oh
So it's
wow.
extremely beautiful. And of course, the other places are the poles, like
Okay.
Antarctica and the Arctic.
So,
So those 4 or 5 places you must go.
is there anywhere that you still haven't gone to that's on your list?
Um, there are a number of countries, but they're right in the middle of the Pacific.
Oh,
So you need a little bit of effort to get there. But
okay.
surprisingly, I haven't been to Canada.
Come. No, no way.
I've never
No
been to
way.
Canada.
I had the chance to go 3 years ago because my family members are now Canadian there as well.
Yeah.
And I had the chance to go to the Banff National Park, Lake Moraine.
Ah,
Uh, these are beautiful. I like it. The
yes.
hike, the
Yeah.
hiking was spectacular. Yeah,
I will go. I will go. In time, I will go, but not at the moment. I don't yet have the urge to go there yet.
understand. So can you just remind us again your top five places one must go at least
Northwest
in their life?
frontier of Pakistan,
Okay,
and then the Himalayas,
okay,
okay, Patagonia,
okay.
Antarctica, yeah, and the Arctic, yeah. That's it. 5. But of course, there are other places in in China, in Australia, in Japan, in
Yeah,
Africa. They're all very nice too. But this kind of places, the five places I mentioned about, are the type that actually turns me on.
I understand. I can tell that. Yeah. So obviously you've been traveling, and when you've been traveling, you were also when you first began, I should say, was at the peak of your career. So how did you like just do it, and what did your family have to say about Because I think what you say will resonate well with a lot of us today who, as you said, because you have a lot of advice for the 50-year-olds and the 40-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, and so but you did it. So how was that? How did that affect? How did that change the dynamics of how?
Sorry, I've been very lucky. I've always said there are five factors, must-haves that you must have if you want to do what I've been doing. First of all, you must have a very compliant spouse.
Okay.
Will allow you to go for 3 or 4 months driving around South America,
Oh,
crossing the deserts and all that.
right.
So you want to have a compliant spouse. I've been lucky. My wife has been very, very understanding. And the reason she's been very understanding is because we have family in the UK. I have 9 of my grandchildren there. So when I go around South America for 3 months, she takes the opportunity to go to the UK to be with our 9 grandchildren.
I
So
understand.
one of the must have. So a
Okay.
compliant spouse. The second most important factor or must have is that if your spouse is not compliant, you must have the spunk to go in and do it anyway.
Okay. All right.
And of course, the third one is you must have a little bit of money. So, I mean, the 20-year-olds and all that obviously cannot go unless you go on the cheap,
Hmm.
hitchhiking, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But you also do not have the time. So, time, you must have the time.
Yep.
So, 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds who are thick in the middle of their careers and all that may not be able to do these things. Now, maybe they can go for short trips, but not
Sure.
on long trips like crossing the Sahara Desert in 2 months, driving around South America in 3.5 months, driving from London to Malaysia in 2 months, that kind of thing. So you must have the time. And fourthly, you must have the health. And this is what I've been telling those 50-year-olds, those people who've already got tons of money, that, you should start thinking of retiring as early as you can.
Right.
Because for the 50-year-olds, 50-year-olds, I say to you that that life is finite. That if you imagine that the average lifespan of a Malaysian male is only 76 years, okay, um, 30% of your life is spent getting an education. That's about 23 years out of 76. And the other 55% of your life, if you work until 65, which is 55% or 45 years, you know, is spent working. So 85% of your life is gone when you retire at 65, leaving you only 15% of life. That is if you're healthy. But by
Yep.
the time you're 70, you get a stroke, you get a bad knees, and you get diabetes, that kind of thing, and you can't travel. So my message to the 50-year-olds is that once you've got enough money, uh, fairly enough, start thinking of retiring. I retired at 53, and for the last 20 years of my life,
Yep.
I've been doing things that I want to do. So if you're 50, you better start thinking of retirement, because if you retire at 65, there's really not much more
Yeah.
time left for you to do what you want to do. And I mean, I've always said, if you remember the last time, the world's richest people are the widows and the spoiled brats of rich billionaires who didn't know how to spend their money. Because your money
So
is not your money if you spend it.
true.
So the 50s, guys who are in the 50s, once you've got a bit of money, start thinking of or planning how to retire, when to retire and retire. Because the worst thing is that self-employed people, professionals, like doctors, lawyers, architects, who've got a business of their own, they never retire. Tomorrow they're going to die. Today they're still going to the office. So
Mm.
that's the tragedy of self-employed people. So if
Yeah.
you're 50 and above, start thinking seriously when you should retire. Don't wait till you're 65. Okay, so now I turn back to people of your generation, the 30s, the 40s, and the early 50s. You know, what must you do? You know, the first 30 years, 23 years of your life is spent getting an education. So when you are working, the 40 years of working life that you're going to spend, think a little bit about yourself. That if you work from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that's 40 hours a week. My advice to the younger people, the 30s, the 40s, and so on, is for you to unmesh yourself.
Mm.
Because I think many of you are trapped in what I call the tyranny of technology. And this coronavirus thingy has highlighted it to quite seriously. Because now you are 24/7 connected to the office.
Yep.
Which means your boss, your customers, your clients, and your suppliers and all that can contact you anytime.
Yeah.
So you need to actually force yourself, first of all, not to work beyond your contracted hours, which is 5 o'clock, and then not to work more than you have to. Switch off your phone at 5 o'clock, and then from 5 o'clock onwards, do your own thing. Do not let the company take over your family time, because you're
Right.
not getting a single cent extra. You should use that extra time, because there's only 24 hours in the day. You spend 12 hours of that sleeping. And if you spend 8 hours working for the company for which you're paid, and then you increase it to 50%, which means 12 hours, you have no other time for yourself, no time for your family. So
Right.
5 o'clock, switch off your phone. Don't let your boss who lives in US or UK, who has got a 12-hour time differential from you, call you up in the middle of the night, to talk to you. You shouldn't. 5 o'clock, get two phones. 5 o'clock, switch off your work phone, and don't entertain any more calls. You see.
Right. Right.
So that's what you must do. You must unmesh, because this thing, getting yourself so involved in your company to the
Mm.
extent that you neglect your family, number one, and number
Yep.
two, you neglect looking for ways and means of improving your financial situation. Why did you look? Why did you use that extra time, or the time that is outside of office hours, to try and invest, for example? Find something to do. Go online, because this COVID lockdown thing is
Yep.
actually showing you that there are opportunities out there. You may not be another Ali, Jack Ma, or Zuckerberg or whatever, but at
Right.
least do something online. For example, and start to increase your sources of income. So that you can then, by the time you are 50, 53, 55, or whatever, you can retire quite comfortably. You see. So don't get caught by the tyranny of the corporation. Don't
Yep.
get caught by the tyranny of technology.
Yep.
Learn to downshift. Downshift meaning start releasing, let go. Let go. If you are a manager, learn to delegate. Let more of your subordinates do your work. Why do you
Right.
go home and work 50% more than what you're contracted for, and then got no time for your own self.
Mm.
So that's my message to the because I've always been saying, spend your money. Your money is not your money till you spend it. But as a young man, between 20 or 30 to 50, you are working to build an investment portfolio that can sustain you in your retirement. So if you don't do it,
Yep.
you have to suffer, when it comes to, so
This
that's what.
brings me, yeah, this brings me to your very famous saying. I think this is what you're known for. It's about you should spend your children's inheritance. You've been quite well known for that saying. How much truth is there in that? Like, what's your take? How did you come up with that, as a saying? And
Well,
how is it
because
relevant now?
because when you are in the work stage of your life, you are always trying to save. You're trying to spend money on your responsibilities,
Hmm.
education of the children, the mortgage, the car payments, the house payments, all sorts of things.
Yep.
It's not right to spend money, is it? So when they die, they leave millions in the bank, and that's one way. The other thing is, of course, many people just don't know when to stop. I mean, my good friend, the owner of Public Bank, he's got $42 billion. He retired when he was 85 years old,
Yep.
last a few months ago. I mean, what's the point of retiring at 85 years old with $45 billion in the bank, and you can't even walk 200 meters?
Mm.
And you can't even spend, if you spend 1 million a day, you have 42 billion. By the end of the year, you would have spent 360 million, but you end up with more money than when you started, because the interest alone is more than that, is it?
Yep.
So people have lost sight of the purpose of money. Money is a means to an end, and not an end in itself. So many people earn money, work their butt out during their working stage of life,
Yeah.
and they forget to spend. So that was why I said, start spending your money, but you must
So
have money before you spend, huh?
yeah, of course, of course. So I think the key thing is how does the everyday person, or the youth of today, or those who are 30s and 40s, like I think you did give some sound advice on creating a second hustle, or not just being a slave to the system, right?
Yeah.
But to expand your income stream so that at least you've got more disposable income to first of all travel.
Mm.
Yeah. So, have any of your kids or grandkids come with you on any of your cross-country road trips?
For the long ones, no, because as I said, if you're working or you're schooling or whatever, you can't spend more than a week, or maybe the most 2 weeks away from your work.
Yeah.
So they do come, but they I brought my daughter and my son. Uh,
Okay.
my daughter is now 36 years old. My son is 49. So I brought them to Antarctica, and it was only 2.5 weeks, so that was okay. And then now my wife joins me. We go to the Arctic. We go to Antarctica, and we were supposed to go to Wrangel Island in Siberia this
Okay.
July. We go to Africa, to Serengeti, and all that. So sometimes, even if you have the money, young people cannot go. Because of their responsibilities. They're tied to their work, and they cannot just leave for one whole month.
Yep.
So it has to be that you do this kind of thing, these long kind of trips,
Yep.
only when you're retired. But you can go on the short trips, a week in the desert or something like that. That's
Right.
possible. But you can't
Right.
drive around South America. Just not
Of course.
practical.
Of course. So
Mm.
as a grandfather with a large family, is there something that you try to pass on to your kids, to your grandchildren, from your wealth of experience? A mantra, a philosophy.
I have always said that if you want to be rich, you cannot be rich working for somebody. If you're an employee
Yes.
working for a company, you get a salary at the end of the month. If you really want to be rich, you have to go out and work for yourself. Because as an employee, no matter how hard you work, it will never earn you more than maybe a minuscule increment in your monthly salary. But if you go out and do something on your own, you're self-employed, the harder you work, the more money you get. That's stage two. But the third stage, if you really want to be rich, is to become a businessman where other people work for you. That if they work hard, the harder they work, the more money you get.
Mm. Mm.
So from the employee to the self-employed to a businessman, this is the cycle of metamorphosis that you have to go to if you really want to be successful in life. And of course, the last stage is once you've accumulated a lot of money as a businessman, then you become an investor, where you sit at home and do your thing, and your money works for you. So that's the message. That if you really want to be rich, get out of being an employee. You'll never
Yeah.
become rich by being an employee. You know?
Right.
So that's what I wanted to say, and then I wanted to say to all the young people, that don't stay enmeshed in your work. You will find that when you're working, your identity is your company or your employer. If
Yep.
you're the managing director of a company, you think
Yep.
people kowtow to you because of you. No, it's because what you can offer them. Your
Right.
employees kowtow to you because they want a promotion.
Yeah.
Your customers kowtow to you because they want a good price. Your suppliers kowtow to you because they want to get your business. So you find that when you leave, the moment you leave your throne in your company,
Yeah.
you go to you become an ordinary person. You
Yeah.
you are you. Nobody looks at you anymore. So
Mm,
it's quite traumatic if your whole life is your company.
of
So
course.
my advice is to young people that start doing something outside of your work environment. Make friends outside of your work environment. Do things without your colleagues or the normal circle of your work environment.
Right.
And but when you finish your work phase of life, you
Yeah.
already have friends. And I had friends who are motorcyclists, who are pilots, who are paramotoring, who are 4x4 enthusiasts. I moved from work life to a new, well, to a set of friends which I've been developing for a long time. So develop passions and interests outside of your work environment. I mean, people who are working today, they don't have a life outside of their work.
Yes.
They don't. Go and do something. Pick up some passion.
Yeah.
Maybe art or painting or whatever. Or carpentry, or in my case, it's adventure travel or hiking, that kind of thing.
Yes.
That's my message. If you ask me, do I have something to say to the young people? This is it. And to the old people, of course, spending money before. Yeah.
Yeah, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I was going to actually say, in light of the current situation, traveling is not really an option. It's an ideal time to sit back, reflect, do a reality check. But what kind of advice would you give to all our viewers now? And I think quite a fair amount of people. We've even got a viewer from Manila. Hey, Annalisa, and I hope you're still there. And what would you just put out there, given what's going on today? And you preach travel, you preach getting out there and seeing life and gaining those experiences. But with what's going on right now, and travel in the foreseeable near future is going to have to be a bit on the low.
Mm.
What kind of advice would you give to people, especially to our viewers and the younger generation? What would your take on life be? What can people do right now then, before travel becomes possible again?
I think this corona thing is going to change life,
Hmm.
the way that we have life. I don't know how it's going to change, but I think the digital sphere is going to be more and more important. So I think for people, I mean, that is a Chinese word for crisis, which is a combination of opportunity and danger.
Hmm.
So if you look at this crisis, for example, you focus only on the danger, then
Yep.
you don't get anywhere. But look at the opportunities, that this digital sphere is offering you. For example, today I had somebody pass me a message that if you want to buy tiger prawns, it's $40 a kilo. Normally it's
Okay.
$70 a kilo, because this guy used to supply this thing to the market. There's a
Okay.
middleman that supplies it and sells it. So from $40 at source, it becomes $70. So
Right.
this thingy, this lockdown
Yeah.
has enabled him to reach outside directly to his consumers. So now stuff are getting cheaper for us. I mean, right now, when this thing is over, I will never go to the market to buy anymore. I will just call
Right.
him, hey,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I'll come over and collect or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get together a few friends and say, okay, we'll buy it in bulk from you. So these
Right.
are new opportunities that you can grasp. For example, education. Education has been about going to school, in a class of 40 people or whatever. And
Yes.
the thing that is said about education in this country is that, we've lost a few generations that no longer can speak in English. When, the language of trade, international trade, is English. Maybe even Mandarin, now that China is going to become the world's biggest economy. So Malaysia as a whole, as a country, is fortunate because we've got the Chinese, the Chinese among us who can communicate with the Chinese market over there.
Yep.
But the sad thing is that we don't have anymore a group of people, the younger generation, who've been
Mm-hmm.
schooled in Malay are not being able to speak a language that can, make yourself understood in trade, for example.
Right.
So, so now with this, with this lockdown, why not somebody start English schools virtually online, for example? Right now they say classes can be, taken in at home. You
Right.
have one teacher. You have if you go to school, one teacher teaches 40 children. Now one teacher can teach 40,000 children. So why not somebody start an English school online?
Right.
For example, you don't have to take, you can teach them English plus Malay plus a normal curriculum, but in English.
Right.
And then you get your GCE or whatever it is, or A levels. And then you at least have, and of course you mustn't forget or disregard the national language.
Of
You must
course.
have that as well. But then don't disregard English. Right now, I see many people cannot get access to, to the internet, because internet is in English.
Yeah.
If they get it in their own language, Malay or whatever, they will have to wait for somebody to translate it. And they
Mm.
don't have knowledge that is at the cutting edge.
Right.
So I think, as a result of this lockdown, if somebody can start homeschool English medium, I tell you, you'll make a bomb. Because it's not that people don't want to go to national schools.
Right.
The feeling out there is that maybe the discipline in national schools is lacking.
Mm. Mm.
Uh, uh, they want the children to learn English as well, and the English that's being taught in national schools maybe
Yep.
it's not up to the standard that they feel ought to be. That's why otherwise, why should all the politicians be sending their children to English international schools?
I didn't say that, but hey,
You didn't.
have you ever considered a career in politics? My God, Yusuf.
No, I've got too many skeletons in the cupboard.
Ah, oh man, it's been an hour. You've just been, I mean, you can go, I think we can go on and on and on. But, given how the fact that you're now filtering in and out like Casper the Friendly Ghost, I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a shame that we had a great 45 minutes at least of you in full Technicolor. We'll have to
I'm
figure
so
out a
sorry.
way.
I really don't know what's going on with this camera. We had it
And
quite nicely just now.
and I have
Suddenly,
all these. I know I have all these photos, some really hand-picked photos that I want to show our viewers, and you tell a story. But it looks like I might have to save this for another day, Yusuf, because with what's going on now, and I don't want people to just look at you like this.
yeah, I too feel a bit, a bit bad. So
I know, because I think that could be part two, because there's a whole segment on just the adventures that you've gone off in, and I appreciate the fact that you took time to go through my prep for this interview as well, and I think it won't do you justice now like this, so we might have to do a second take
yeah,
soon,
yeah.
because I'm pretty sure people would want to hear or just look at some of the
Talk about the picture.
adventures. Yeah, yeah, because there's some amazing photos that tell so many stories which only you can tell us. So, but even as we just wrap things up, is there anything you want to put out there, just as a parting shot, Yusuf?
No, I'm so glad that we got to talk. That I hope haven't been talking too much. Some of the things I say, might be sensitive stuff. But that's the way I feel. That I think this is a great country. I think we need to really make it greater.
I'm
And
with
I
you on
think
that.
this country
I'm
has
with
got
you
a
on
lot
that.
of issues that needs to be solved. And I am optimistic. But in spite of all that, and I always say to my friends, friends who say that this country is going to the dogs and all that, I said you can still become a millionaire in this country, a billionaire even. So it's just a matter of actually working around it, and not paying too much attention to all this this racial thing and all that. Because if you work hard, and if you are smart, you can still become rich. You can still make a good living around here.
Hmm.
Me, I will never leave this country. I want my char kway teow at 11 o'clock at night, and I want my roti canai at 8 o'clock in the night, and 7 o'clock in the morning. be, to be able to eat my mee rebus, So you never get this anywhere else, So this is a great country, and then I really hope this when we get out of this, that we might start a new a new chapter in this country, that social distancing might result in new ways of doing things,
Yep.
and I'm hopeful. So to the rest, I'm so sorry if I offended sensitivities, but that's where I am.
No worries, Yusuf. I mean, this is an online platform. I mean, I get people from all walks of life, and you definitely embody that definition. The last cool cat I had was my uncle Percy, who you happen to know as well. So, not since him have we had somebody else who has gone through life, has seized it by the horns, and has a story to tell. So, I do appreciate you sharing so openly because you've not held back, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Yusuf.
Thank you, John, and thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry about my camera. It's actually this Microsoft Surface Pro. It's terrible.
Yeah. No worries. We'll figure out the fix and we'll do a session 2 soon when you have
Will
the
do.
time.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Take
you
care,
very much.
everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.